Thanks again for joining us today. We're here for our Explore My Major panel presentation focused on the communication major here at UIC. My name is Justin Wire, and I'm the Assistant Dean of Recruitment and Engagement. I'm also here with our great Director of Career Development, Liz Herrera.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
And I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for today, one of our faculty members from the Communication Department. But we hope everyone will ask us lots and lots of questions. Feel free to put any questions you might have into the chat feature at any point in our conversation, and I'll turn it over to our professor.
Thank you, Justin. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this panel. As Justin just mentioned, we're really excited to sort of have this discussion with our really esteemed communication alumni, and we're really looking forward to learning about their different career paths, their experiences, including tips that we're looking forward to hearing from them with regard to how one can pursue a communication major and sort of how to make the most of the major for career success. And thanks again to Justin and to Liz for co-moderating and taking care of the questions that all of you may have. So let me briefly, I will briefly introduce our panelists, and we'll sort of take it from there. So we're really delighted to have 4 alumni, presenters who will lead our discussions today. I'm really happy to welcome Jodie Ford, who is a reporter with Bloomberg News. We have Nicole Sroka, who is a freelance investigative journalist. And Nicole is also a graduate student in UIC's Department of Criminology, Law and Justice. I also want to throw out a welcome to Asha Binbek. Asha is the Deputy Press Secretary for the City of Chicago, Office of the Mayor. And we have Jodie Twitchell, who is Vice President of Product Management at Integrate. It's a B2B marketing software company. So, thank you to all of you for taking time out and being here with us at this panel today. I would like to ask the panelists to introduce themselves a little bit, just for us to get to know them a little bit more before we get into the panel discussions. So, Jodie, we could start with you.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I went to UIC, graduated 2020. I'm a reporter now at Bloomberg News. It's their entry-level program where you kind of go between different teams. A lot of newsrooms have programs like this that I would highly recommend. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Asha, would you want to go ahead and...
Hi, everyone. My name is Asha Binbek. I'm from class of 2017. Seems like a little bit ago. I currently work for the City of Chicago as the Deputy Press Secretary for the Mayor, and I cover in my portfolio business, economics, and neighborhood development, as well as a bit of sustainability. So the government track is what I'm doing now, and I actually really enjoy it, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it a little bit more.
Great, thank you so much, Asha. Nicole?
So hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's awesome to see so many people. Again, my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a graduate student currently working on my master's here in the CLJ department, Criminology, Law and Justice. And I'm also a teaching assistant. So I do teach some discussion sections with a class in CLJ. Most of my research interests kind of revolve around victimization and a lot of data. In my free time, I am also a digital artist. And, when I have time, I do dabble in freelance journalism.
Thank you, Nicole. Jodie.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. I am Jodie Twitchell. My pronouns are she, hers, and I am actually class of, I'm embarrassed to say it, 1996? No, 1994. Sorry, I had to think about that for a moment. And so interestingly, I was a major in communications, but I now lead product management for a marketing software firm. And it's an interesting journey how, in fact, you can start in one area, and communications in particular, and how that can actually open the door to so many things. So I'm very excited to share that story with you here today as well.
Thank you so much, Jodie. And I think that's an excellent, sort of segue for us to get into, these a number of questions that we have, and we're really eager to, know about your perspectives on this. So, the first question that I have is, it's for all our panelists and whoever would like to address it first. How did your communication major prepare you for your career? And maybe Jodie, we can start with you, since you already kind of gave us a little glimpse of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I started in communications. Well, I graduated with a degree in communications, and at the time that led into public relations. And technology in the mid to late 90s was, of course, a really burgeoning industry. And so I thought that public relations was the perfect fit for me, given the ability to speak publicly, not be intimidated by large audiences, as well as some of the science around how you persuade, right, audiences, or how you make them aware and help them understand a perspective, and really some of the data that goes into analyzing it. But interestingly, over time, what I actually found was those skills, the ability to think strategically, to really dig into the audience, understand it, right? Understand where they're coming from, and then leverage the science of persuasion and the science of much of what we learn in communications to essentially shift their perspective. That actually helped me discover that my superpower wasn't necessarily in communications, though it certainly was. It was actually applying that communications as a bridge. So what we do in product management is we are really sort of that center of the Venn diagram between the technology team, so engineers who write software code, understanding the business landscape, so doing a lot of research around what exists, what are the market needs, and then really talking to customers and users and understanding their pain points, and really translating all of that back to the engineering team, which really, when you think about it, right, it is all of the science of communication that makes that possible. And without really incredibly strong communication skills, both in terms of the hearing and listening, the translating, and then presenting back to leadership, this is the direction we should go in, here's the market need, you can't be successful as a product manager. And so I really found that core foundation I got from my communications degree was essentially the thing that made me essentially successful in product management today.
Thank you so much for that perspective, and based on your experience. And it's interesting because you say you use communication as a bridge to a lot of the other experiences you had later. So I wonder if any of our other panelists could sort of add to that, or maybe talk their experiences, perhaps even what undergraduate experiences that you had at the time when you were pursuing your major influenced your decision to pursue your field of work or even higher studies. We would love to hear about that.
I'll give it a go. Oh, go ahead, Nicole.
Go ahead, I'll go afterwards.
Okay. Well, while I was at UIC, I also was a member of student government. And I think that's what really influenced my interest, at least working in government and working on policy. So after I graduated from UIC, I went to get my master's in public policy as well. And I found that my degree in communications was so incredibly helpful when you're dealing with policy, especially in government. That's very convoluted and not really anyone understands it. So my role, I am able to kind of translate that information so that it's easier to understand for everyone that actually cares about it and people that don't care about it as well. But also acting as that translator was really fun for me because I get to see policy on one end, but then I also get to use my communications degree to kind of explain it to everyone else. And so definitely very thankful for having a degree in communications. I feel like it also helped me understand things better, but also explain things in a way that people can understand it as well.
Thank you, Asha. Nicole, you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, so I think this was mentioned a bit before, but the beauty of being a communication major or having a degree in communication is that it can virtually translate to anything. You can do something with writing. So in my case, things with journalism or even being in graduate school. You can also veer towards a career in HR, PR, media, social media, and marketing. I know a lot of people who are dabbling with that right now as well. And in my case, I did take some classes in communication as an undergrad, and they assisted me in being a bit more comfortable with speaking and writing, especially being sensitive to certain topics or knowing how to, respond to, certain situations. And, that can be attributed to you, Dr. Mukherjee, because I've taken, interpersonal communication with you as well as cultural communication. And even as a graduate student now, I am prepared to speak in front of people, right? Because I teach students 3 times a week. And it's incredibly helpful in holding, discussions. And even now I have a qualitative methods course that, requires me to interview people. And as an undergrad, I also took several courses with Mike Riley. And, from him, I learned the tools necessary to hold interviews, to transcribe interviews. And I think Brody can attest to this as well, and how to ask questions, right? And a lot of the journalism courses that I took did solidify my interest in wanting to pursue a career in investigative journalism. So I do owe a lot to Mike and to you, Dr. Mukherjee.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And, graciously accept the compliment. But very happy to know that, a lot of the fundamental skills that you were talking about, taking a communication major and some of the tools that it equipped you with are actually helping you now, even as you pursue grad school. So I'm very, very glad about that. So, and you talked about journalism. I know while you were at UIC, you also won certain journalism related awards. So, I think that also attests to the fact. Brody, I believe you also actually did win some journalism related awards while you were at UIC. I wonder if you could tell us, a little bit, since you're sort of in the thick of being in news media, what what does a typical day or a week in your current position, what does it look like? And also maybe if you can touch on, some of the challenges or the rewards, of being in your position or in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I did want to touch on a couple things about UIC that I felt like the comms program is kind of uniquely good that I would definitely tap into even more if I went back. I think that because the comms field is so broad, I think you really can tap into a lot of your interests. And I found by and large, the faculty was very open to it. If you come to them and say, hey, this is the thing I want to learn more about. Can I tweak this project a little bit so I can do my own thing on this? They will let you. I mean, I think definitely be open. There's some very forward thinking faculty when it comes to digital media and research. And there's, you can get credit for doing internships. You can get credit for doing independent research. And the actual amount of hours required for specific classes in the comms degree is fairly low. And I think that's by design because then you can really pursue a lot of other stuff. So I'll answer the actual question, but I just wanted to say like there's a lot of opportunities and great faculty to tap into. Just kind of let your passions guide you to build your portfolio. It's a good option. But yeah, so when speaking about journalism, what that looks like on the day-to-day, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is like, of course, you have like your breaking news that you'll need to cover. A lot of it is just keeping it real. A lot of it is just doing research. You're doing research and you're on the phone. I mean, these are things that we all do all the time. I think a lot of it is kind of figuring out where you can insert your kind of expertise. Like, for example, I connected with one of the people who hired me here because in college I would send FOIAs to the mayor's office and get fun stuff back. I'm sorry, Asha. You might have had to deal with those. But I guess just think about what you know and what you know best. And there is for sure some information that you can find that nobody else can. So I mean, a lot of it is really just kind of like, again, like letting your passions kind of guide you here for research.
Great, thank you so much, Jodie, for that. Would any of our other panelists like to address particularly the question about, certain challenges or rewarding aspects in your role or professional, let's say, pathway that you have sort of encountered, or how you deal with it?
I'll certainly add. So I think, one of the things that I find really rewarding about my particular role in product management in particular is users of software often have what we call unarticulated needs. And that is, they either have a frustration about something that the software is not doing, or they may have desires for what they'd like it to do, but they'll often show up and ask for something very explicit. Give me this functionality, or I want this button here, or, it'd be really great if it did this explicit thing. But one of the things that is really rewarding in product management, and that I really tap into those core skills that I learned in my communications degree at UIC, is sometimes what we say is not what we mean, right? And that ability to dig deeper and to really hear and listen and, decompose it or ask in multiple ways and then reflect back. Both verbally and then in writing later on, and then translate that to others it is a secret skill that many, many, many people don't have. And it really is the magic between software that really meets people's expectations and really, what we like to say in the industry, delights them, versus something that does what you said it was going to do, but doesn't actually solve the need at all. So I liken that to someone might show up and say, I want a chocolate shake. And if you don't really understand why they want that chocolate shake, you're going to go ahead, or they may say, I want a shake. You'll be like, great, what flavor, right? But do they want a shake because they're craving something sweet, because they're thirsty, because it's hot, they need something cold? That is really the task at hand in product management. And so the ability to really ferret into that and then translate that back into software and have users say, wow, you've accomplished something I didn't even think was possible, because again, it was an unarticulated need. And by pulling it out of them, you get a real sense, I personally get a real sense of accomplishment in that. So that would be an example I would share.
Thank you so much, Jodie. And I think that is an excellent, practical example for what you mentioned are things we learn, right in the beginning, right in communication, in terms of active and interpretive listening skills. So I think that's an excellent example of that. So thank you so much for that perspective. If I can actually sort of add a question for you, on what you just said, do you have, since you're so well established in your professional role, as Vice President of Product Management, do you have any projections, for these industries? Particularly any advice for how students, undergrads can start to network and gain experience while they're still in college. I would love to hear from you and even from our other panelists about a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll start off by just saying, if you are not on LinkedIn, I strongly advise you create a profile, use LinkedIn, reach out. People like myself, the rest of the panelists, we all were, early undergraduates at one point in time, and almost everyone is going to be willing to have a conversation with you, but you have to be explicit. So the piece of advice that I would have for everyone is really think about what is your passion. And by passion, I don't mean things that you like, industry. It's what do you really enjoy doing? Where are you sort of in a state of flow? Is it writing? Is it solving problems? Is it thinking about certain things? Find that. 2, find what you're really, really good at. Wow, everyone says I'm a great public speaker. That's what got me started. A woman stopped me in the bathroom at UIC and she said, wow, are you a professional? Because I gave a presentation. And I was like, no. And it made me think about the career path. And then the third one is, what areas do you have interest, right? Industry. So do you care about the environment? Do you care about healthcare? Do you care about, people and their relationships? And those 3 things, if you use that to really narrow your focus in who you want to talk to and what you want to explore with them, whether that's a job shadow, whether that's learning about what they do, whether that's learning about what communications, right, might do to help you get a career in that space, that's really going to be the difference. Generic outreach pretty much gets you nowhere. If you can get specific about those things, you will have a better leg up and really have a better path to really understand what they have to share. I probably would have joined product much sooner had I known it was possible, but I didn't take that opportunity. So that would be my coaching to everyone.
Thank you so much. That was excellent advice. I was probably taking mental notes down myself as you were saying that. I wonder if our other, panelists could sort of add to that from their experiences, any advice that they would have for students at this stage to kind of network or certain opportunities that they could look out for that would help them.
I can touch on a few things. Again, for me, it was really important to kind of establish a relationship with my professors and faculty. Also networking with other students as well. And again, go on LinkedIn or whatever, Handshake, and check out these internships that exist. But I do think that building a relationship with faculty and professors is awesome because, if they can see your work ethic and who you are as an individual, they can point you, in the right direction and offer you great advice. If it wasn't for Mike, I probably wouldn't have gotten my internship with News 21, which was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. And, I shared that with Brody, and I think it was awesome that he told us about something like that. And also, if you are looking into graduate school, getting your master's or your PhD, you need someone to write your letters of recommendation, and who's better to ask than, professors who know who you are and can attest to your work ethic. So for me, I think it's really important to, establish solid relationships with faculty and professors and do your best work so they can see, that you really want to do something. So being a good person and doing your work and establishing relationships is key, in my opinion, and it helped me get to where I am today.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And particularly, I think, you sort of addressed one of the questions I did have in my list, which was essentially about, giving advice to students and undergrads if, those who are considering graduate school. So thank you so much for that. To kind of connect with that, since you are currently pursuing your master's degree in CLJ and in fact at UIC, you're a very recent grad from UIC. What influenced your decision to pursue graduate school or a graduate program?
Yeah, so initially when I came into UIC, I wanted to do broadcast journalism. Like that was my main thing. I just went in majoring in communication, right? In elementary school, I remember I won, an award for writing and stuff. And I remember I filled out this PowerPoint slide saying, what do I want to be? I want to be a journalist. And 4 years go by in high school. I was still good at writing. I took a journalism class at Northwestern with this professor. And so I just had this thing ingrained in my mind, like, people say I'm good at writing, I've taken some journalism classes. I'm probably gonna, pursue a career in journalism. And that's why I went into COMM. But, my first year, I was kind of iffy about, what can I do with communication? And I'll kind of address, the question that someone put in the chat, if I ever felt hesitation choosing this degree. So I did feel that backlash from my parents in particular, because I'm like, I want to do something with journalism. I want to do broadcast. I want to write articles. I'm like, a lot of people will tell you it's a dying degree and a dying field, and it's not. And my cousin actually was a CLJ major at that time. She was a bit older than me, and she took some classes at UIC, and she's like, you know what, just take this intro course to criminology. And I took that my freshman year. And then what really sparked my interest in, this kind of career of investigative journalism was taking Mike's data class. And I liked working with data, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do more. And I really like visualizations. I like sorting data and all that stuff. And I started doing these big projects for the Red Line Project, which is this great website that Mike and other student journalists that he produces, and other student journalists kind of add their stories onto it. And, that kind of sparked my interest in hey, I like looking at crime statistics, and I like writing, and I like learning about things, and I like working with people. And, that's when it clicked in my mind, with communication and journalism, I can talk to people, I can learn about them. And then with CLJ, I like, learning about victimization and homicide data. So that's when it kind of fused in my mind, yeah, this is what I want to do. I don't know if I answered the question particular, and I kind of went on a tangent. But then again, the News 21 opportunity was awesome. And that also solidified my interest in, hey, investigative journalism. I'm in grad school for CLJ, but I want to get into my PhD after the master's program. And after that, maybe a double major master's in communication. But in the long run, there's so much you can do. And I'm thinking about maybe I'll teach a class in investigative journalism where it can be in this department or this department, and I'm fusing both majors into one. So hopefully, what I said makes some sense, but I just kind of derailed, but hopefully it made some sense.
Thank you, Nicole. I just wanted to quickly chime in here. Thank you for addressing one of the questions in the chat box. I don't know if any of the other panelists can speak on this. And the question is, if you ever felt hesitation choosing a communications degree, especially with the negative connotations around it?
So one thing I would say in terms of communications and whether or not, to what extent it's applicable for jobs, one tip I always like is get a hard skill. I kind of mentioned this idea that we only have a certain number of hours required for our major. If you use your other hours on, I can only speak to journalism, but things like data analysis, right? I mean, if you walk in and say that you even know rudimentary Python or whatever, these are things you can learn in your spare time. You have a huge leg up in the job market. Another one is video skills, public policy analysis, being really good at public records requests. So I think it's very important that you are good at reading, writing, whatever, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are, and it's important that you have that, but you need to have, one or two extra things that you specially bring to the table. And I think with that, I think that removes a lot of this kind of anxiety of to what extent will this degree by itself get me a job?
Yeah, I would double down. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Asha.
I'll just take a second then. I wholeheartedly agree. I think that I didn't have any hesitation when I did my communications degree when I switched over, and I was pre-med initially. So really I was just looking for a way to escape, but still kind of use my skills and learn skills that I could use in the field after I graduated. Communication is a great degree for that. Because you can really go, it's so broad, you can really go into anything. And yes, there are a lot of great writers, there's a lot of great speakers. But when you honed in on that skill and you've been trained on that skill, they do value it a lot. But I 100% agree that you also need a hard skill alongside it. So I wouldn't recommend it alone, or I would, if you're already in the field, what I would do is find another thing that I could do alongside it. So for me, it was public policy, because I knew that I wanted to go into government work. And that communication skill is hey, I have these skills. The hard skill that Brody's talking about is that, hey, this is also what I'm really good at, and this is how I can use it in a different field. Alternatively, you could kind of hone in on a different field. So don't specifically go into communications, kind of focus on that subsector that you want to work in, and then anyone would value those skills as long as you've shown that you're actually very good at it. So it's not just enough to have that skill. Getting internships, having connections, those are very, very important. Finding a job, I don't think there's not a shortage of jobs in this field. It's just about who you know and how well you can kind of show everybody that you're good at what you do.
I would
Thank you so
double
much.
down on finding an area of focus because it is very, very broad. And that's in part what's awesome about it is entering into it, you can really explore your options. Similarly, I started in psychology as my major, and then I shifted over to communications specifically. So really finding within it, I focused on the media portion and public relations and really how to use media as a communications vehicle for marketing, how it impacts society, how to craft those stories. So the key will really be finding your focus area in that, which goes back to passion, but also don't be afraid to let your major choose you. If I can inspire everyone on this meeting to just sort of know that if you follow your interests, if you follow what is good, the journey may take you in a winding path, but I promise you, if you show up, if you really apply yourself, follow your passion, and really take the opportunities as they present, it'll lead to fantastic places. Because again, communications picked me. I didn't pick it. And really, it became just an enormous catalyst that I'll be forever grateful for.
Thank you so much. I think that really sums up sort of the common thread, I think, through what all of you said is, I think one of the advantages of having communication sort of as the foundation is because it's steeped in interdisciplinarity. So it gives you all these sort of myriad, avenues and opportunities, and also, it also equips us with these, data literacy skills or critical literacy skills, or even how to, formulate a question that, the next day can become a research point, or from a simple everyday question to something that we can really engage with and sort of have our critical faculties put into sort of practice. So I think that's a lot of what you all explain through your professional experiences and advice. I think touches on all these points and just kind of tells us the number of opportunities in related fields and even within communication that everyone has. So thank you so much for all that really, really useful and really valuable advice. I'm going to put one more question out there, and this is for everyone, speaking specifically to your how you charted your progression. And Asha, if we can sort of start with you. You talked about your kind of this journey from communication to then public policy, and then where you're at now professionally. So was there any, what educational, let's say, pathway or degree did you seek after you finished communication to sort of do that? If you can tell us a little bit about that.
So I mentioned earlier that I was interested in government after being in student government. But after I graduated from UIC, I actually went into the nonprofit sector and I worked in communications there, which was really, really great, and it was a lot of fun. There were times where I wanted to understand more than what I got from the communication side. I wanted a deeper understanding of what was happening. And also I wanted to work on policy. I wanted to physically work on policy and work to change things, especially for marginalized communities. That was very important to me. And so I wanted to go into law school actually, but then I realized I didn't really want to practice law. And communication was public policy was a happy medium for me. So I started exploring what that could look like and what paths I could take with it. And what I found was that communication and policy actually really go hand in hand. It's that the intersectionality, that translation that you get from the two fields that I wanted to master. And so going into policy, I studied policy analysis, I studied elections and campaigns, I studied like government policy. I worked for a sustainability nonprofit on the side as well. So I was able to kind of really take in as much information as I could. And then after that, I had decided, okay, now it's time for me to go into government. So now working in government, I'm using both of those every day because I get sent policy and I'm told, this is how you have to explain it. Like, we have to explain it in a way that people can understand. So that's my job every day. Whether it's telling the mayor what she should be saying during her, when she's answering questions from the press, or writing press releases after getting 40 pages of a policy from the sustainability team or the business team, putting that together. It's a really great thing and I'm really happy doing it. So, but yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. And I think it also sort of opens up these other, possibilities for, our undergrads and those who are thinking of, connections to related areas that, some of you are already sort of doing. And it's interesting because, all of you are pursuing careers in different industries, also related to a certain extent, and each of your roles has a different professional scope. So Brody, if I can sort of ask you here, what did you, being in sort of media and news reporting, what do you wish you knew before pursuing this field? This is a question we often sort of ask ourselves once we're sort of in a career, right? And what is important rather for people to know? So, what can you offer in terms of some advice there?
Yeah, totally. I think, one thing I would say is that, and I don't mean this to be discouraging, I mean this to be like, it's a good thing, that I think the hardest part for me was like one of my first internships. I felt like when I first started, dude, I would send out like 100 applications and get nothing, right? But like once you start building it, like don't be picky in the beginning, right? Like get something, even if it's adjacent to what you want to do, getting some kind of professional experience, if it works for your life, if you could swing it, maybe, let's say maybe it's unpaid, but you're getting school credit, things like this, like early on, like as early on in your college career as you can, get those kind of things that are related to your field. And you could, like, for example, I got and I know unpaid internships are touchy because we don't all have the privilege to take one, but ideally, if you're getting school credit, you can make it work. I got an unpaid one at a political ad company, and they would take pretty much anybody. And then from there, I got a broadcast internship, and I got a better one. Then I got, as Nicole said, the News 21 fellowship. And then from there, I was able to get an internship at a bigger news agency who hired me outright. But I guess what I'm saying is that don't be picky early on. Try to just like get things on. When it comes time for your full-time job, I think that's where you should be a little more picky. That's where you should kind of, take your time. I mean, we all are really afraid of having a resume gap, but being 2 months out of college with a 2-month resume gap, it's not a big deal, right? 2 versus 3 versus 4, it's okay. I mean, if you start hitting the 6-month point, okay, maybe you take something. Another thing is how much it's a networking game. And I know you all hear that and it sounds scary, but it's not. Like especially when you're a student, like if you're a student and you walk up to some 30-year-old who's been in, they're always going to talk to you. But you're a student, they want to help you. So I mean, really just sign up for these professional conferences. They have journalism professional conferences. You can get in for free as a student. Just talk to recruiters. I mean, the more you just talk to random people while you're a student and you have that card to play, the better. And please reach out if any of you have questions about media. It's a really weird industry to get into, but like once you're in, it's like not that bad. I feel like the job market, but getting in kind of sucks.
Brody, I have a quick question because you touched upon something really
Yeah,
interesting.
totally.
And any other panelists too. What professional associations do you all belong to that you recommend? I'm curious.
Yeah, totally. So I can only speak for journalism. I got this job specifically through Investigative Reporters and Editors, which is an industry association. They have a couple different journalism associations. They have really good ones for like cultural affinity groups. They have really good ones for like, there's a lot of them. And another good thing is right now with COVID, a lot of them are still remote. So they'll have like these sections where you can just talk to recruiters. Dude, just talk to like 5 recruiters, tell them all of them you want the job. That's the other thing I meant to say. It's a numbers game. Like you really will send out like 20, 30 applications. If you hear nothing back, it's not personal. Like that's just the way it goes and it sucks, but just know that.
Thank you so much. And I think, as Liz mentioned, I think, one of the questions that students also often have, undergrads who are, pursuing the major, particularly who are seniors and close to graduation, is, are there, networking opportunities that you talked about, or organizations, or even volunteer opportunities, whether it's, within UIC or outside of it, that you could be involved in, as a student, or you were involved in at the time, that helped you. So I think you answered, quite a bit of, that query that a number of our students have. So thank you for that. I also kind of want to piggyback on what you said, because I remember hearing from my mentor that, don't be too picky right in the beginning, that, you need a step in the door to start with. And I think that's really valuable advice. So, taking that sort of as the main point, I wonder if, and I'm opening this question to all our panelists here, in your respective industries or fields, what entry-level roles, in your experience, do you know, or do you think are available with an undergraduate degree in communication? If, who, would like to, answer that.
I can start. So in product management, which again, adjacent, leverages the skills. Those roles would be called a product owner. They would be called a business analyst, which sounds like a very, very big and scary role, but it's really just the person that analyzes the problem and documents the requirements. So those are two entry level. There are things like associate product manager or associate product owner. Pretty much anything that you see with an associate title means sort of, it's the new phrase for, I hate to say it, junior. When I started, it was junior this, junior that. We don't use that phrase anymore. Thank heavens. It's associate, reflects sort of entry-level positions for which they're really just looking for smart, competent, capable, dedicated people willing to show up every day and do their very best.
Great. Thank you, Jodie. Would anyone else, Asha, Brody, or Nicole, would you like to address that question?
In the government field, there's a lot of different entry-level roles that you can take. And I think before I even say that, I just want to give you guys a bit of advice. A lot of entry-level roles that you're going to see are going to say, oh, you need 2 to 3 years of experience, or you need at least 1 year of experience. Apply to those jobs anyway. That's honestly, when I found out that you could apply for those jobs, it was honestly the best thing that you could do for yourself. Those are very arbitrary numbers. They don't always mean anything, even for senior roles. Very, very useful advice is to apply. If you think that you're a good fit for the skills and the roles, even if you don't meet the experience requirements, apply for that job anyway. Because typically they already know that other people are going to apply for those roles when they don't have that full experience, and you're kind of selling yourself short without it. Then going back to like government roles, analyst, whether you could be a policy analyst, whether you're in the comms field, press assistant. My role is technically mid-level, but there was somebody that was in that role before, that was entry level. Even working as a digital strategist, social media strategist, all of these roles are available everywhere. And you, especially in government, but in a lot of other places, you can kind of just move up, like move up into a new position if you want to stay in that company, or go to another company. Typically what you'll find these days is that when you're working, whether it's in the corporate field or in the government field or even in the nonprofit sector, you have to kind of move out to move up, which is really unfortunate because typically you want to stay in a position for as long as you can, but it doesn't really work that way anymore. You stay in a role for a couple of years, and if you want to move up, you're probably not going to find that growth and it doesn't always apply, but sometimes you won't find that growth within that company, and you'll have to move out of that company and into another company to find that growth, because traditionally that's just not how it is anymore.
Thank you, Asha.
I can
Go ahead.
Touch on graduate school if anyone is interested in pursuing their master's or their PhD, because I went straight into my master's right after graduating. I graduated in the spring and I went into my master's in the fall. You can start off as, a teaching assistant or a research assistant, a graduate assistant. And you can put that on your resume, because I'm putting it on my resume. Being a teaching assistant, you have to do stuff like inputting grades, you make assignments, you work with spreadsheets. There's so much that you can add to your resume from just being a teaching assistant or, research assistant. And, in regard to, grad school, getting your master's or PhD, it's important for you to not doubt yourself or your abilities, because I know when I first came in, I met so many people from different countries and states who had these developed ideas for, things like research and what they wanted to do with themselves and, their future careers. And I did suffer from imposter syndrome for a bit, at the beginning, but it's just important that you remind yourself that everyone is at a different position in their academic journey, right? And that's totally fine. It's just important that you don't doubt yourself or your intelligence and your strengths, right? Just be optimistic and everything will sort out in the long run. And it's also really good to research which universities you want to, apply for, different programs. And UIC has great graduate programs if anyone is interested.
Thanks so much, Nicole. I think that's excellent advice from all of you, including those tips on self-care, which I think is really, really important, especially with everything all of us have been going through the last couple of years. And it sort of puts a different perspective on, also as I think, Asha, Jodie, both of you was also mentioned how, even education is a substantial experience, or rather can be counted towards substantial experience. And don't be afraid to, get your word out there and apply, even if they organizations or companies require a certain number of years in experience, because you never know until you get out there. Even with the networking, as Brody you mentioned, that don't be sort of scared to start that process. So I don't know how much time we have left for more questions. Should we go to the Q&A thing, Liz? Justin, I just wanted to do a quick check on, is it sort of time for us to wrap up?
I think that if there are anybody else have any questions, I know there were a few questions that kind of came in through the chat. I don't know if any participants have any final questions or thoughts?
Can I add something on resumes real quick? So I don't know to what extent you're all familiar with this in terms of students. I did not know this very well, but how much resumes at big organizations are really read by robots, and how you want to use keywords correctly. Just look up SEO resumes. Two other things on resumes. Somebody mentioned extracurricular school organizations. Totally agree. Another thing there, in the extracurricular, you give yourself any title you want. And I don't mean that to be dishonest, but like, if you see a job is called a certain thing, maybe that's what you had at the student organization, right? Make sure it kind of matches, because people just see it, they want it to match. Another thing is people will write things like, I want to do data analysis. You do data analysis. Just say you do it. I mean, as long as you can defend it verbally, as long as you have the work to back it up, just, I think a lot of us have a tendency to undersell ourselves, and make sure that if you're going to undersell or oversell, you want to oversell, because everybody else is doing that.
Thank you so much, Brody. I think, yes, that is definitely, it's a very practical bit of advice. And we often struggle with, how to present our skills in the best possible way without overselling or underselling, ourselves. And I think students will really benefit from that kind of advice. So do we have any, just trying to quickly look at, are there any questions?
And then I'll also just throw in one little thing. Use your professors. Like, your professors know a lot of people, especially in the city that if you want to work in the city that you went to school, your professors know a lot of people. So even if you're not able to network to the ability that you've wanted to, ask your professor to connect you to people, because they get emails all the time like, hey, I'm looking for an internship for someone here. Hey, I'm looking for a couple of recent graduates to do this work. It's entry level. Like, they have those opportunities that they can share with you. So just keep a good relationship with your professors, and then as you go, you can continue building a network, but ask your professors for help, because they know a lot and they are there to help you.
I would tag team on that. Also, do your research. Google is your friend. Don't just read the first article, read the first 20. And I promise you, when you research and you show up and you're speaking to someone, you start speaking in their language, the language of their industry, it sets you apart. Today, I interview people that have 7 to 10 years experience, and it astounds me how few research prior to that meeting. And that is, number one, if you're in an interview with me, if I get the sense in the first 5 to 10 minutes that you haven't researched my company, the job, the technology, immediately you are ruled out, because the ones who really want it, and the person who will do a great job in this role, will do the work to research. So do yourselves a favor and give yourself that leg up. Research the person, their company, the role, the industry, and come using that language.
Great. Thank you so much, Jodie. That is really, really good advice. Nicole, you have a question. I see your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to touch on something really quickly. I'm not sure if, we talked about this a bit earlier on, but, we live in a digital era, right? Digital age, and technology is consistently advancing. And, I'm just thinking about a career in journalism, right? Where we're kind of taught like hard news, like it has a headline, it has, supporting graphs or whatever, and that's your news story. But with digital advancements, you have the emergence of things like photojournalism, and where visual storytelling is a big thing. So if you're good with a camera, you can do something with that, like do visual narratives and start a blog. Or you have different places like NPR. I have a friend who works for NPR at the science desk, and she takes pictures and she does a lot of photo editing. So there's so much that even a career in in journalism entails now, because of all these advancements. And I also, am an artist, and I got the chance to actually produce artwork for some stories. And that's something that you wouldn't have thought about doing like 10, 20 years back. So again, there's so much new stuff that is available in different fields. And it's just a matter of you just checking it out and finding these spaces that allow you to work with, your hobbies. So it's not, if you're not that good at writing, or, you don't want to be writing and you're good with the camera, hey, you can still be a photojournalist. So that's always something to keep in mind as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nicole. And I think you touched on 2 major buzzwords, remote and mobile. I think or mobile at this point is pretty much how, we, and especially the last couple of years, that's kind of, we've become more primed and prepared for it as well. And again, also Jodie, as you mentioned, I think these remote internships, definitely for a lot of our students, that helps if they are not bound by, spatial restrictions or, sort of other kind of restrictions, to have those opportunities. So yes, and NPR, definitely, remote internships there. So thank you. I think, for all of these, this really, really wonderful information that was so useful and so beneficial to all of us attending. I think, does that kind of bring us to the end of the session? Yes, I guess it does. So anyway, since that's all the time we have for today, once again, I would like to thank all our panelists, our audience, the UIC students, everyone else who joined us today. It was such a pleasure moderating this panel, learning so much from our alumni, professional experiences, all the stories and advice you shared. This session, as Liz and Justin mentioned, is recorded. So if anyone's missed this, or feel free to share the link later. I think there's so much of good information in here. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. All right.
All right, stick around. We have a raffle for the participants. So I know, Justin, what are some of the giveaways?
Yeah, thanks again to our panelists. So Raphael, we are going to give away some UIC bookstore gift cards. So we're going to try to get 3 winners from some of our guests today. And thank you again to our panelists today.